This session is brought to you by the Influence Marketing Platform. The Influence Marketing Platform is so intuitive, you'll swear it was built just for you. So go ahead and learn more about the automation software and get a demo at emarketingplatform.com.
All right, first up, Kate. Hi, I'm going to hand the microphone off to her. Kate's been writing for us for a while.
A little over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year. Have you ever read any articles about interviews with other companies, lessons learned? Kate has been the force behind that. Kate is super qualified. She has a Ph.D. So anyone dies in here, she can't help you.
Yeah, not that kind of doctor.
Not that kind of doctor. All right. Anyways, we're really excited about this one.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Oh my god, so excited. Hello, everyone. My name is Kate Blau. As Mike mentioned, I've been writing with our DD team for a little over a year, doing interview articles for them, which has been super fun. And impromptu, they asked me to talk a little bit more about myself before I actually get into what we're going to talk about. So I'm currently a digital nomad. I don't live anywhere right now. I've been on the road for 5 months. It's pretty great. It's also really exhausting. I was living here in Greenville and teaching at Wofford College. It's a small liberal arts school about 45 minutes from here. My Ph.D. is in rhetoric and writing. Came out here to teach English. Sorry guys, didn't like South Carolina. Sorry, I don't tell the truth. And so I've been here for about 3 years and decided that I didn't want to keep chasing the job, which is what teaching college is. And then I had to go through a whole bunch of angst and whatnot because if you get a tenure track job at a place that will give you tenure, you're crazy to leave. Well, I'm apparently crazy. Because I left. So now I'm working as a freelance writer and editor. I'm doing work with really good emails. I have a couple of ghostwriting gigs where I'm writing blogs and emails for small businesses and entrepreneurs. I'm also working with online education companies and sort of leveraging my skill set. Before this conference, you may have noticed there was some weird transition going on. So there was Grok, it was a conference that happened right before this, and I came to that about 1.5 years ago, the last Grok. I was sort of trying to figure my life out, and I was like, maybe I need to learn to code. I don't know. What do? I've been in college forever. And they're like, you probably have skills that you can use. You maybe don't need to acquire a whole new set. And that proved true. I actually know a whole lot about words. A whole lot about words. So that's my backstory. If any of you want to talk about digital nomading, grab me later. Metaphorically. And I'd love to chat with you about it. It's a really interesting thing. I've been traveling domestically for the last 5 minutes. I was test writing cities trying to figure out where I wanted to live. Probably going to Portland. And then I'm going to go abroad this summer. Okay, but what we're really here to talk about is email. Mike came up with the title for this, Communicate Like a Friend, not like a serial killer or a robot, or kill a robot. And actually what I'm going to be talking about is humor. Using humor to connect with your audience, using humor in emails. So it only seemed appropriate that I started with a joke. So guys, why was the chicken banned from sending emails? Too much foul language. So terrible. But it's pretty innocuous, right? It's awful puns. But it got your attention, even if you hate puns. And that's one thing that humor is really good at. There's a lot of literature studying humor in advertising, and reviews are mixed about its effects in terms of viewer comprehension, but it's super consistent that humor gets attention. And people like it. It generates positive affect. Even if you don't really understand what the ad's about, if you laugh at the joke, you're oh yeah, your jokes. So that's cool. And clearly y'all think that since this is an RGE conference and we're pretty funny. Our brand identity is irreverent and cheeky. And if you're here, presumably you're into that kind of thing. So you're our people, yay! But even we have made mistakes, as Matthew kind of alluded to. And so I'm here to talk about how to be friendly and funny in your communications without coming across as creepy or murderous. And I asked beforehand, because I'm really not into public shaming, if I'm going to show you 2 examples of super creepy advertisements. And I don't think anybody from these companies is here, which is good. Because again, like, I don't like calling people out. Maybe. That's the word. Okay, it wasn't me. Yeah. Okay. So do I just click on the slide? Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the one here on your right, left, your left. Sometimes bad choices can be super innocent and sometimes less so. The Adidas email in 2017 was sent out with the subject line, "Congrats, you survived the Boston Marathon." For those of you that don't remember, in 2013, 4 years prior, there was a bombing at the Boston Marathon and people died. So this was not in very good taste. And I'm willing, in this one, I'm willing to be like, oh, like, you just weren't thinking about that. Like, you're not, like, whoever sent that was tired and, like, wasn't a runner and, like, it was just a bad move. The Bell Liquor vodka ad, I'm not giving anybody credit on that one. That was just rapey. It's super rapey. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, that was gross. So, my hope is that you're going to leave here today less likely to send out something like either of these. In order to get us there, sorry, that GIF is a delightful surprise to me. That sticks to my slides because I'm not a designer. So what we're going to talk about is jokes and how all communication is about relationships and the assumptions we have to make about those relationships in order to understand one another. Brands, subscribers, content, we're making all these assumptions about how these things relate to each other, and things go awry when people make assumptions or misunderstand relationships between these things. And that can happen at any time. It gets extra complicated when we try to make jokes, so we're going to talk about the modes of humor, so you can better think through what you're going to do or try to do in your future communications. As previously mentioned, I'm a Ph.D. So I've spent a lot of time thinking and talking and writing about how language works. I also wrote a dissertation about humor. In other words, I spent way too much time killing stand-up comedy for myself. But I'm not here to do that. Like, I love jokes. Jokes are great, and I'm not trying to kill that for you today. So, what you're going to get out of this, some basic takeaways, is a basic understanding of the modes of humor. There's kind of like 3 ways that we as humans process humor, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then I'm going to walk through some examples of how it can backfire to help you avoid making the same mistakes. And all of the future examples I'm going to give you are ones that are really big mistakes. And then I'm going to give you a checklist to help you make jokes more responsibly, and tips on how to respond when you do screw up, because it's really easy to do. And the thing is, it's really easy to screw up because language is really easy to screw up, right? Yes, we are living in a time that is more aware of cultural difference, and that is fantastic. That's not the problem, right? Like, the problem isn't that, like, oh, we're too PC. The problem is that language, and especially written language, is slippery. All language use is basically an asymptotic high five. And I was going to use my hands for this, but, like, the way that language works, which you guys use words, you probably know this, is like, so I'm gonna shout. So, like, language works because there's, like, this idea in my head, and I need words to, like, communicate that idea, and then you hear the words, and you're over here, and you interpret those ideas, right? So there's inherently this gap. And what we're trying to do is, as best as possible, make that gap small. Right? But when we have different experiences and different assumptions about each other, like when we don't have tone of voice and we send a text message and it gets misinterpreted, right? Like, that gap gets wider. And that's just how language works. Does this one get up? Again, that's something I can get real geeky and real down the rabbit hole about. If you want to talk about post-structuralist theory, we can do that some other time. But that's sort of the basic gist. Is the thing I want to say is that like it's a problem with language, not a problem with joking. And so what we have to do in order to communicate with each other is interpret based on assumptions we made about relationships. If any of you had to suffer through a rhetoric class in college, this is the rhetorical triangle, guys. I just adapted it for this context, right? So author, audience, text, brand, subscribers, content. And like, the connections between these things are where things go wrong. We make assumptions and best guesses about who our subscribers are and try to cater content accordingly. Our subscribers have a sense of who we are as a brand and hopefully think nice things about us. The content is how we relate to each other, but in order to make that connection, we make assumptions. And you know what happens when you assume? So we make assumptions about their relationship to the content, and they in turn have to interpret based on their understanding of our relationship to the content, right? So it's just a whole whirlpool of assumptions. And this is where things go wrong, especially when you're trying to be funny. Part of the problem is that you're inevitably going to have a range of people in your audience, and consequently, a range of tastes. So some research shows that men, and young people in particular, prefer aggressive humor, where somebody wins the interaction. This is also the most likely type of humor to make people uncomfortable or upset. In contrast, research says that women, older people, and wealthy people tend to prefer victimless humor, the silly stuff that might be too cheesy for your brand. Okay, I gotta pause. Review. Okay, a recent special report on boomer versus millennial attention spans concluded that aging brains are more easily distracted and better process repetition, while younger brains have better attention capture, engagement, and memorability, which makes them receptive to faster edits and quick slapstick humor. So like different people like different kinds of jokes. And you can't make all the people happy all the time, but you can make choices about who you're trying to talk to. So the solution that I'm here to offer you is having a little bit of a better understanding of how humor works broadly, and pairing that with your best guesses about your audience. So like I said, there are kind of three basic modes of humor, or like ways to think about or approach how jokes work. The first one is superiority theory. So punching down, laughing at. This is the aggressive humor, the superiority stuff that according to research, not just our assumptions, men and young people in general prefer. Making fun of something inevitably entails the possibility that someone who feels connected to that thing will be hurt or offended. And problems come up when the audience perceives it as picking on, at best, and as being racist, chauvinist, or misandrist at worst. No, not script there. As we'll see, this can come up in unexpected ways in places even when you think the thing you're making fun of is innocuous. But like, Scumbag Steve is a really popular meme because everybody's like, that guy, haha, it's funny to laugh at him. Next theory of comedy is relief theory. So this is like punching up, laughing with. As any of us who went through drinking phases in our 20s can attest to, joking about stuff is a great way to alleviate embarrassment, painful experiences, and pressure in general. We laugh to keep from crying, right? Whether a joke falls in the category of laughing with or laughing at has a lot to do with who makes the jokes. In other words, how your audience perceives you. If you're a part of the group or affiliated with the thing, humor comes off as a release of pressure or as a subversive tactic, right? Think The Daily Show. If you're not a part of the group or you haven't had those experiences or your audience doesn't know that you have or are, that's when it can come across as punching down, making fun of, being mean, which some folks don't mind, but other folks really mind. So we'll come back to this in the examples I'm going to show you. The third one, this is the safety zone. This is the land of puns and surprise and delight. These are the dad jokes. And the joke I opened with, which was like terrible, but not in any way upsetting to anybody, because we don't have any chickens in the audience. Our brains are wired to appreciate incongruity, and issues can arise with any of the three of these sort of categories of joking, but like there are more obvious offenders. Like if you are going to make fun of something, there's a better chance that like somebody who has a feeling about that something is going to get upset. And like some people might hate puns, but they're not my people. So here's like, and again, just like, you don't have to, both this slide will come up again, and we're gonna send these things out. So like, these are the basic questions to ask before hitting send. Like, now you have the gist of the ways that people process humor. Like, I'm gonna talk through some examples to illustrate. But the basic takeaway here is to take some time to pause and reflect on those relationships before hitting send. So what is my relationship to the content? And like, how do people view me and understand my relationship to that content? What is my audience's relationship to the content? What kinds of jokes am I making here? And how can I make those relationships clear to make the kind of joke I want to make? Right? So if I'm going to make fun of something, can I make it super clear that like I'm a part of that thing that I'm making fun of? You know? So you see this a lot in stand-up comedy, right? Like, people will make fun of themselves because like you have permission to make fun of yourself, right? And if you say like I'm going to make a joke about me, then people can laugh about that. So to put some of this into practice and to avoid embarrassing or public shaming anybody else, except us, I'm going to use examples of our own mistakes. This is really theory in action. We can laugh about it now. Yay! Although I do want to preface this by saying I didn't write any of these. But I am going to use the we because these are my teammates and I love them and they're well-meaning. So the first example, we sent an email about conferences. Most folks reading our emails would probably agree that conferences are lame, except for this one. This one's awesome. So the text of this, I'll just read it and I'll talk about it a little bit. So it says, if you've been to an email conference lately, you notice like they needed intervention for a bad drug addiction. But instead of the denials and your friends surprising you with it, you pay to be there with a branded pen you got from reception. But the advice is still spot on. This is the spot. Whether it's changing your send strategy or telling your boss he doesn't know what the right way to email is, getting all the content together and making it memorable is a job that starts way before the butts are in seats. So, in this instance, like, the problem wasn't about the content, because conferences are lame. The problem was the way that it was talked about, and in the underlying relationships and assumptions that the word choice reveals. So reading this, some of our subscribers very fairly assumed it was written by two dudes. So we got, reactions like a boss could be a woman too, FYI. Not sure if it's an unconscious stereotype or you being blatantly sexist, but females can be bosses too. Legit! And I think that's part of the reason they asked me to talk about this. And that's part of it, is like learn from your mistakes. Like hopefully some of you noticed in the conference literature that like we have been really good about pronouns ever since this got called out. But we live in an age where like pronouns matter and language matters. And that's why pronouns are a big deal. And it turns out there are a lot of ladies that read our emails. Yeah. And so it's important that we're addressing our audience of all genders. Okay, so that was example number 1. Example number 2. So this was an email we sent about Singles Day. That's great. You got some brooms. So to us, this fell into the category of novelty and incongruity. Like surprise and delight. Like if I didn't know about this until we sent this email, like Singles Day is this whole thing in China. And so we weren't really making fun of anything, we thought, just thought this phenomenon was interesting and weird and delightful and wanted to bring it to people's attention. The problem was in our timing and a little bit of tone deafness and what it communicated to some of our subscribers about our values. So those of you that didn't remember this, November 11th is also Veterans Day, Armistice Day, Remembrance Day. Kind of a big deal to a lot of folks. And so we came across as a little tone deaf to what's going on in the world and upset some of our international, and presumably, but I'm making assumptions, older subscribers. So some of the responses we got, I'm saddened that you're bringing attention to a shopping holiday when it's Remembrance Day in the Commonwealth. That seems more important to tell people about than a flat-out joke about a Chinese holiday. November 11th may be Singles Day, but as an English reader, I find it troubling that you'd highlight that over Remembrance Day. And you should have some more respect for people who have lost loved ones in wars. So the moral of this story is that timing is a key part of context. And we probably could have alleviated some of this by at least acknowledging that this falls on an International Day of Remembrance. Like if we had said, guys, it's so weird that Veterans Day, Remembrance Day, is also Singles Day, right? How weird is that? Might have done something to at least acknowledge that we're kind of aware that it's, a more solemn occasion in certain parts of the world. So, our bad. And then, so the third example is a little bit more serious. And where are the notes? So this joke was about receipts, and I'll read the text. Some transactions don't need a receipt. Take a shady dark alley deal, for instance. You don't want a paper trail on that thing, or a purchase of breath mints. When would you ever need to prove that the mint you are sucking on is indeed your acquired property? So this is one of the times where we thought we were making fun of something that we thought was pretty innocuous. But the backstory here is that there's a Mitch Hedberg joke about this, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, that's so funny! I never made a joke about receipts." Didn't think that was a big deal because of his life experiences. It turns out, if you didn't already know this, receipts are one of the many racially charged issues in this country. People of color are frequently asked to provide proof of purchase, and it's a big deal. So we got some very understandable pushback on this. So considering the fact that people of color are routinely harassed for receipts for minor purchases and have been killed over such things, this feels very ignorant or racist. Of course you don't need to carry around a receipt. You are white. Which is true. You think this is funny, but it isn't. Just because you are privileged and never had to prove you purchased something doesn't mean that others are in the same boat. And so the moral of this story, and I think one of the key takeaways, I think it's important to think about when you're making jokes or when you want to joke about stuff. If you're going to make fun of something, run it by someone whose life experiences are different from yours. Whatever that looks like. For the writers, this was laughing with, but for a number of our subscribers, it was laughing at, because their relationship with the content was significantly different. And this is the kind of stuff that really matters. So, kind of final thing, when you get those kinds of emails, thank your readers for sending them. Not everybody's going to take the time to do that, and they might not be irate about it. And most of those were pretty nice, all things considered. And it's really important to learn from those experiences. So this is just a pat, very helpful response. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Clearly, we haven't considered that perspective. And then don't do it again. So, to recap, communication is inherently full of assumptions. It's how language works. Those assumptions are centered on the relationships between your brand, your subscribers, and the subject matter. And jokes are great, but be thoughtful about what kind of joke you're trying to make. Ask yourself, what is my relationship to the content? What is my audience's relationship to the content? What kinds of jokes am I making here? And how can I make those relationships clear to make the kind of joke I want to make? I gotta end with another joke. Why don't Vikings send more emails? Because they prefer Norse code. Okay, and then questions?
Alright, so we kind of just opened up the kimono to really good emails and put ourselves up there. Thanks for doing that for this state. That was nice. One of the things that we get often is asking us about, well, my brand is not that personality. My brand is extremely serious, But I don't like being a serious person. How do I bring personality without necessarily humor, but how do I bring personality into my copy that makes me sound like a human?
Write like you would talk to someone would be my initial response to that. Like use contractions. Like you can still be serious and say can't. I hereby give you permission. If you learned that rule in an English class at some point that like contractions were informal. But yeah, I think and basic. So that would be my initial response to that is write like you would talk. Right, like you would talk in whatever kind of meeting that you are in your company, and think about who are you talking to, and read it aloud, y'all. Like I'm 97% sure that all of you already do that, but like read it aloud. Does it sound like a human talking? If it doesn't, then how can you make it more human? Contractions are one response, kind of shorter sentences, sentence variety, all the things that I would teach in a basic English class.
Well, that's what I was hoping to get like a basic English class.
Oh, okay, well, no. I put that down.
Awesome. Is there any other? Is there? Oh. we talked about
Okay,
that.
I forgive you.
Okay. Are there any I really want to ask a question right now. If not, Kate will be around the rest of the weekend, and she can talk about words.
Yeah.
And being a nomad. And we're kind of a little early. But are there any questions?
You're going to put pressure on
Yeah, right here.
So the one Remembrance Day one strikes me in particular, right? I mean, that's a World War I holiday, Commonwealth countries, right? For those of us who are, in fact, sending emails to international, they're typically all, for us at least, they're all English speaking. But I mean, I would be paralyzed if I thought, I don't know every holiday in every country or what people might be thinking about at this moment, but I still want to be whimsy. I might have a point here more than a question. And the point was, I think your apology was the most important part. You're right. You know what? I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing that. But I think I cannot be paralyzed on every email before I send it.
And absolutely. And I don't want any of you to feel like you need to be fair. Like that is 100% true. And I think that's one of the areas where at least running it by other perspectives can be helpful and can help catch those sorts of things, potentially. Like, the Veterans Day was a pretty big one. I think that was our best. But, no, I don't think we're responsible for knowing every holiday and every country that we're sending emails to. This man. Oh, yeah!
I just want to respond to Phil. I work for now 2 global organizations. I think that's why larger brands are very reticent to have humor as part of their brand guide because it can come off really tone deaf for other people. Like, for example, I had a large contingency of folks that were English speakers that lived in India or Singapore or Australia. Like, it just does not work the same way. And I'm American. Like, I don't know what people like to joke about in India, Australia, and New Zealand. So I think that's why our brand guidelines are no humor.
I would propose, it might take a little more work. Segmenting your list a little more would be amazing.
So that's one thing I want to say. Know your segments and understand actually who you're sending to. Most of your ESPs will give you analytics, tell you about who's opening it, what countries they're in. We also have some international people here from Australia, from London, from Canada. So if you see them, you can talk to them and say, you can say something to them.
Start with hello.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So, I have something in the chamber, but I have one brand that very much is against it, and they say that it's because it will ruin their credibility. But they're a women's shoe brand, so.
They're a women's shoe brand? And
But they're fashion brand.
Yeah, it's there's, there's a particular ethos to using humor, right? One of the things that I really enjoy about writing for RGE is that they are an irreverent brand. I try to work with clients that aren't that serious because I'm not a serious human and I don't want to be serious all the time. But I think that's a legitimate.
Well, sorry, I should like. So for this case, they're also trying to branch out to a younger demographic.
Oh,
because
man.
How do I convince them that if they want to be naturalized or they
Right.
need to actually be fun.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be fun.
Yeah, I can
Like,
have
I can tell you some, like, young people like humor. You know, like, that's a thing.
easy fashion brand.
Yeah, I don't have an easy answer to that. But apparently that won't work for them. So I mean, yeah, we can come bigger.
They also had me take out a line break under their logo because of the professional stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yeah.
So one of the things that you said, the response that you gave,
Mhm.
you know, basically saying we didn't consider that. At what point do you feel like it's maybe appropriate to send a second email correcting? We've had it happen a couple of times. That's an inappropriate thing. But at what point do you do that, and how did you approach that?
My personal feeling, since I write a lot of those mistakes that you saw. Hey, we're a close group here. This is a safe environment. My name's Mike. I'm a recovering it's always personal. I've offended somebody personally. If it comes to a very large amount of people, then we will send out a correction. But generally, you know, it's funny, because we talked about all the bad things that came in. For all those emails, we had responses as, this is the funniest email I've seen this whole week. Right? So if we come off apologetic, that also hurts our brand a little bit, because we are irreverent. So being one-to-one is my personal opinion on how you resolve the conflict. And even on Twitter, when somebody says something like, I can't believe you guys are doing this, we always move it to a direct message. Just not because we don't want it out in the open, is because we feel like that's a personal matter that we can resolve ourselves and understand their perspective. The whole perspective thing is really trying to mind the whole perspective without other people's perspectives also jumping in. That mixes up that person's viewpoint of what they said to us.
Yeah, and that speaks to kind of what I was talking about. Like you have different people in your audience, and some people are going to find it funny, and some people aren't going to find it funny. And I don't want to live in a world necessarily where the people who don't think it's funny win, right? Like, because that will kill humor. And so I think that the appropriate response. So when something if something terrible happened to RGE, like that Adidas email, right? Like that went to everybody in like bad taste. You know, but if you get kind of blowback from a small segment of your list, I think it's very appropriate to say like, hey, like, oh my gosh, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We're sorry, but it's not necessarily like don't let it kill the funny. Yes, sir, in the back.
I'm gonna stand up here.
Okay.
Long way and
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you as a consumer, when you're looking through emails with your background, what sorts of things does humor do for you in terms of deciding what emails to even delete?
Ooh, this is a good question. I mean, catchy subject lines will get my attention. You know, I think for me, I am drawn to brands that are more fun and more personal, like that. And I think that it's true that at least, and this is another thing. Like, I will speak from my experience, as opposed to trying to make broad generalizations. Like, I am a silly person, so I am drawn to silly things. You know, like, I was excited to speak at this conference because I wear a t-shirt, and if I say shit, it's not the end of the world. Like, I sometimes swear when I get nervous, and I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. You know, like, and so, like, that's what I'm going to gravitate towards. So the brands and the emails that I open RGE emails, because they're funny. Like, I don't know what they're going to say. And so that's been true for me, but like I am also not all people. And there are a lot of brands that aren't trying to sell to me. And I think that's, as you all know, the like difficult and impossible challenge of sending emails is that you are sending them to a variety of people. Yes, ma'am.
Aside from RGE, like who would you say brand-wise stands out and does humor really well?
But I don't know, man.
Like social retail, Chubby's comes to mind. For me, I think they break all the rules and do a mostly good job doing it. And that's
That was pretty funny too.
yeah.
Boulders
So
are
just, but yeah, just curious if there was any that jumped out to you. Neither one is.
Yeah, not when you put me on the spot. Okay, one more. We got one more question. Who's got a good one? Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever, like, as a woman, do you write jokes that because you're a woman you're allowed to say, but then the brand is sort of coded as male, and then when you send them out, you kind of get in trouble for it?
Ooh. I haven't had that experience, but that's kind of what my dissertation's about. Right? Is like the agency and authority that we have speaking from a particular position. And it has to do with how intention is read, usually read across the body. And in this instance, it's like how it's read across the brand, right? So like I said, like I haven't had that experience, but I can totally see how that experience came up. And that's when the use of pronouns can be helpful, right? Can you insert somewhere into the email something that indicates a lady is writing this, right? Because that's kind of the workaround to get away with it. Like if you are a lady, you get to joke about ladies. And if you're a dude, you get to joke about dudes, you know? And if you're a lady, you can probably joke about dudes. Because that's how power works. Like, you know, as a token lady on the RGE team. So that apparently is all of it, but do feel free to snag me at any point with a verbal hello. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you about any of this at other times.